The Galactic Academy's unusual experiment. The Grand Lecture Hall of the Galactic Academy of Xenobiology buzzed with anticipation. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions filled the tiered seating, their varied appendages and sensory organs twitching with excitement. Today marked a momentous occasion. The first live observation of a member of the notorious Deathworlder species known as humans. Professor Zilksnath, a tall, willowy creature with iridescent scales and 4 arms, gracefully ascended the platform. Her melodious voice reverberated through the hall as she addressed the assembled students. Esteemed colleagues, today we embark on a truly extraordinary study. For the first time in the Academy's history, we will observe the sleep patterns of a human volunteer. A ripple of astonishment coursed through the audience. Sleep was a concept alien to most of the gathered species. The idea of voluntarily entering an unconscious state seemed absurd, even suicidal. Yet humans reportedly engaged in this behavior for nearly a third of their lives. Please welcome our courageous volunteer, Lieutenant Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance, Professor Zilksnath announced. A compact figure strode confidently onto the stage. Sarah Chen stood just over 5.5 feet tall, with shortly cropped black hair and alert brown eyes that scanned the alien audience. Her olive-toned skin glistened slightly under the bright lights, and a friendly smile played across her lips. "Greetings, everyone," Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "I'm honored to participate in this study and help bridge the gap of understanding between our species." The alien students murmured and clicked and whistled in their varied languages, many leaning forward to get a better look at the human. Professor Zilksnath gestured to a strange contraption beside her, a flat, padded surface elevated slightly off the ground. Lieutenant Chen will demonstrate the human sleep process using this recreation of their resting apparatus, which they call a bed, the professor explained. We will monitor her vital signs and brain activity throughout the experiment. Sarah approached the bed, her movements easy and relaxed. "Just to warn you all," she said with a chuckle, "this might be pretty boring to watch. I'll basically just be lying still for several hours." A gasp went through the audience. Hours of immobility. It seemed inconceivable. As Sarah settled onto the bed, holographic displays sprang to life around her, projecting her vital signs and neural activity for all to see. The alien students watched in fascination as she closed her eyes and her breathing began to slow. "Notice how the human's respiration and heart rate decrease," Professor Zilksnath narrated. "Brain activity is shifting to what they call alpha waves, indicating the onset of sleep." Within minutes, Sarah was fully asleep. The assembled aliens stared in a mixture of horror and awe at her prone form. To many of them, she appeared lifeless, vulnerable. Everything a species from a death world shouldn't be. Sixclixk, a crystalline being from a high-gravity world, raised a faceted appendage. "Professor is the human, still alive." "Quite alive, Sixclixk," Professor Zilksnath assured the student. "Though it may appear otherwise to our perceptions, this is a natural and necessary biological process for their species." As the hours ticked by, the initial fascination gave way to unease for many of the students. They watched Sarah's rapid eye movements during REM sleep, listened to the soft sounds of her breathing, and tried to comprehend how a species could survive by rendering itself so defenseless on a regular basis. Halfway through the sleep cycle, Sarah rolled over and mumbled something incoherent. The sudden movement sent several students scurrying for cover, certain the human was about to attack. Professor Zilksnath quickly calmed them, explaining that movements and vocalizations during sleep were normal and harmless. As the experiment neared its conclusion, anticipation built once more. How would the human awaken? Would it be a violent process? A gradual one? Sarah's eyelids fluttered, and she stretched languidly. Sitting up, she blinked a few times, then smiled at the awestruck audience. "Good morning, everyone. Or is it still night? I always lose track of time when I nap." The casual way she referred to her period of unconsciousness stunned the alien observers. Professor Zilksnath stepped forward, her scales shimmering with excitement. "Thank you, Lieutenant Chen. That was truly remarkable. Students, do you have any questions for our volunteer?" A forest of limbs, tentacles, and other appendages shot into the air. Sarah grinned, clearly enjoying the alien's fascination. "I'll do my best to answer," she said. "But I should warn you, even we humans don't fully understand sleep. We just know we need it to function." For the next hour, Sarah fielded a barrage of questions. Do all humans require the same amount of sleep? What happens if you don't sleep? Can you control when you fall asleep? Do you dream? What are dreams? Sarah answered each query patiently, her responses only seeming to generate more questions. The alien students struggled to grasp the concept of dreaming in particular. The idea of the mind creating vivid hallucinations during sleep baffled them. As the session drew to a close, Professor Zilksnath addressed the class once more. "This experiment has given us unprecedented insight into human biology, but it also raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, vulnerability, and the varied paths of evolution across our galaxy." She turned to Sarah, bowing slightly. "Lieutenant Chen, we are deeply grateful for your participation. Your willingness to make yourself vulnerable in the name of science and interspecies understanding is truly commendable." Sarah returned the bow. "It's been my pleasure, Professor. I hope this helps bring our peoples closer together. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be able to teach some of you the joys of a good nap." As Sarah left the stage to enthusiastic alien applause, Professor Zilksnath couldn't help but marvel at the paradox of humanity. A species from one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, yet willing to regularly render themselves helpless in the name of rest. It was a reminder that there was still so much to learn about the diversity of life in the universe. The first ever human sleep study at the Galactic Academy had been a resounding success. But it was only the beginning of the aliens' journey to understand their strange, resilient, Deathworlder neighbors. Sleep study shocks alien students. Word of the unprecedented human sleep study spread rapidly through the sprawling campus of the Galactic Academy. Within days, Professor Zilksnath's xenobiology class had swelled to 3 times its normal size as students from various disciplines clamored to learn more about the enigmatic Deathworlders and their bizarre resting habits. The lecture hall buzzed with excited chatter as the enlarged class settled in for their next session. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing recorded footage from Lieutenant Sarah Chen's sleep demonstration. Professor Zilksnath's melodious voice cut through the noise. "Settle down, everyone. Today, we'll be analyzing the data gathered during our groundbreaking experiment." The professor's 4 arms moved in graceful synchronization, manipulating the holograms to zoom in on Sarah's brain activity during different sleep stages. "As you can see," Zilksnath explained, "human sleep is not a uniform state. It occurs in cycles, each lasting approximately 90 minutes. These cycles are composed of distinct stages, each serving a crucial biological function." She highlighted a period of particularly intense brain activity. "This is what humans call REM sleep, rapid eye movement. It's during this stage that they experience vivid mental simulations known as dreams." A student, a gelatinous being named Blorbax, raised a pseudopod. "Professor, I'm still struggling to understand the purpose of these dreams. Why would a species evolve to hallucinate regularly?" Zilksnath nodded, her scales shimmering thoughtfully. "An excellent question, Blorbax. The truth is, even humans don't fully understand the purpose of dreaming. Some theories suggest dreams help process emotions, consolidate memories, or even simulate potential threats as a form of mental training." This explanation sent a ripple of unease through the class. The idea of a mind conjuring imaginary dangers seemed counterproductive and potentially traumatic. Another student, a silicon-based life form called Crystallia, chimed in. "But Professor, doesn't this dreaming make humans more vulnerable? If they can't distinguish these dreams from reality while sleeping, Couldn't it impair their ability to respond to actual threats? A valid concern, Zilksnath acknowledged. However, humans have evolved mechanisms to paralyze their bodies during REM sleep, preventing them from physically acting out their dreams. Additionally, they can usually be roused from sleep by sufficiently loud noises or other stimuli. The professor pulled up another set of data, this one showing Sarah's vital signs throughout the sleep cycle. Notice how the human's heart rate and breathing slow significantly during the deeper stages of sleep. This allows their bodies to focus energy on vital repair and growth processes. A collective murmur of astonishment ran through the class. The idea of deliberately slowing one's vital functions seemed antithetical to survival, especially for a species that evolved on a notorious death world. Zilksnath continued, her voice taking on a note of wonder. What's truly remarkable is how this period of vulnerability appears to be essential for human cognitive function. Without adequate sleep, their mental acuity, emotional regulation, and even immune system are severely impaired. She pulled up historical data on human sleep patterns. Fascinatingly, as human civilization has advanced, many have tried to reduce their sleep time to increase productivity. This has led to numerous health issues and a growing recognition among humans of sleep's vital importance. A tentacled student near the back of the hall waved an appendage frantically. Professor, are you saying that humans become less effective as warriors or problem solvers if they don't enter this vulnerable state regularly? Precisely, Zilksnath confirmed. It's a paradox that has puzzled xenobiologists for years. The very thing that seems to make humans vulnerable is also a key source of their legendary resilience and adaptability. The implications of this sent a shockwave through the class. Many had assumed humans' reputation as formidable warriors and innovative thinkers came from being constantly alert and ready for action. The idea that they required regular periods of unconsciousness to maintain these abilities challenged everything they thought they knew about Deathworlders. Zilksnath sensed the growing unease in her students. I know this information is challenging to process. It goes against many of our preconceived notions about survival and evolution. But that's precisely why this field of study is so important. The more we learn about different species, the more we realize that there is no one right way to exist in this universe. She brought up an image of Earth, a swirling blue and green orb that looked deceptively peaceful. Humans evolved on a planet that experiences regular cycles of light and darkness. Their sleep patterns are intrinsically tied to these cycles. But consider this, they've maintained this need for sleep even as they've spread to the stars, adapting it to different planetary rotations and the darkness of space itself. The professor's voice took on a tone of admiration. This adaptability, this ability to take what seems like a vulnerability and turn it into a strength, is part of what makes humans such a fascinating species to study. As the class digested this information, Zilksnath decided to drive the point home with a practical demonstration. To help you better understand the importance of sleep for humans, I've arranged for a special guest to join us via hologram. Please welcome Dr. Aisha Patel, a human expert in sleep medicine. A shimming figure materialized at the front of the lecture hall, a woman in her mid-40s with warm brown skin and streak of gray in her dark hair. She smiled at the assembled aliens. Greetings, students of the Galactic Academy. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about human sleep from a medical perspective. The questions came rapid fire. What happens to humans if they don't sleep? Can humans die from lack of sleep? How do humans defend themselves while sleeping? Do all humans need the same amount of sleep? Dr. Patel answered each query with patience and clarity, explaining concepts like sleep debt, the role of sleep in memory consolidation, and the various sleep disorders that could affect humans. One thing I want to emphasize, Dr. Patel said, her expression growing serious, is that sleep deprivation has been used as a form of torture throughout human history. Denying sleep can break down even the strongest human minds. This is part of why we take sleep so seriously as a medical issue. This revelation sent a chill through the alien audience. The idea that simply preventing this natural cycle could be used as a weapon was deeply disturbing to many of them. As the session drew to a close, Professor Zilksnath thanked Dr. Patel for her insights. The professor then turned to address her still-stunned class. I hope today's lesson has given you a new perspective on human biology and the diverse ways life can adapt to challenging environments. Remember, what seems like a weakness from one point of view can be a profound strength from another. She gestured to the image of Earth still floating above them. Humans may need sleep, but this very need has driven them to create safe havens, to form communities for mutual protection, and to innovate in ways we're only beginning to understand. As we continue our studies, I encourage you to keep an open mind. The universe is vast, and life finds a way to thrive in the most unexpected forms. The class filed out, their minds whirling with new information and challenging ideas. Many found their preconceptions about humans and Deathworlders thoroughly shaken. Some were fascinated, others unsettled, but all of them were eager to learn more about the strange, sleeping giants who had emerged from one of the galaxy's most dangerous crucibles. Little did they know, their next encounter with human sleep habits would be far more direct and far more chaotic than they could have ever imagined. Panic spreads as humans slumber. The Galactic Academy's annual interspecies cultural exchange was in full swing. The sprawling campus had been transformed into a vibrant tapestry of alien cultures, with pavilions representing hundreds of worlds scattered across the meticulously manicured grounds. Among the many attractions was the Earth Pavilion, a modest structure that nonetheless drew curious crowds. The human delegation, led by the affable Ambassador Jerome Williams, had been regaling visitors with tales of Earth's diverse ecosystems, demonstrating human music and dance, and offering samples of carefully prepared Earth cuisine. As the day wore on, Ambassador Williams noticed his team beginning to flag. The humans had been on duty for nearly 20 standard galactic hours, their circadian rhythms thoroughly disrupted by the planet's 37-hour rotational period. "All right, team," Williams announced, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. "Time for a rest cycle. Alpha Team, you're up first. Beta Team will take over in 6 hours." The alien visitors watched in fascination as half of the human delegation began preparing for sleep. They set up simple cots in a cordoned-off area of the pavilion, dimmed the lights, and settled in for their rest period. At first, the sleeping humans were simply an intriguing curiosity. Alien visitors would pause by the sleeping area, marveling at the rhythmic rise and fall of human chests and the occasional soft snore. Professor Zilksnath, who happened to be giving a tour to some visiting dignitaries, used the opportunity as an impromptu lecture. "As you can see," she explained, her scales shimmering with excitement, "humans require regular periods of unconsciousness to maintain optimal function. This sleep state, while appearing vulnerable, is actually crucial for their physical and mental well-being." The dignitaries nodded, though some looked skeptical. One, a gaseous being contained within a shimmering force field, pulsed with concern. "But surely they don't sleep in the open like this on their homeworld. The dangers would be immense." Ambassador Williams, overhearing the conversation, stepped in to clarify. "You're quite right, esteemed visitor. On Earth, we typically sleep in protected shelters. But here at the Academy, surrounded by allies and friends, we feel safe enough to demonstrate our natural sleep cycle." This seemed to reassure the delegates, and they moved on to other exhibits. However, as the hours wore on and more aliens learned of the sleeping humans, unease began to spread through the festival grounds. Rumors started to circulate. "Did you hear? The Deathworlders are all falling unconscious. I saw it myself. They just lie there." Rumors started to circulate. "Did you hear? The Deathworlders are all falling unconscious. I saw it myself. They just lie there, completely vulnerable. What if it's some kind of contagion? What if we're next?" The panic began slowly at first, a ripple of concern spreading outward from the Earth Pavilion. Alien visitors who had been calmly observing the sleeping humans suddenly backed away, their various sensory organs twitching with alarm. Zix, a young arachnoid student who had been fascinated by Professor Zilksnath's xenobiology lectures, tried to calm the growing crowd. "Everyone, please, this is normal for humans. They call it sleep, and it's essential for their health." But his words fell on deaf ears, or whatever passed for ears among the diverse alien species. The sight of multiple apex predators from a death world lying helpless was simply too shocking for many to process rationally. A group of glutinous spheres began to quiver and merge together in their species' instinctive defense mechanism. This, in turn, startled a flock of winged synaptics, who took to the air in a flurry of feathers and bioluminescent flashes. Ambassador Williams and the awake members of the human delegation watched in growing alarm as chaos began to engulf the cultural festival. "We need to wake the others," Williams said grimly. "This situation is getting out of hand." But before they could rouse their sleeping colleagues, a piercing alarm cut through the air. The Academy's automated security systems, detecting the growing panic, had activated emergency protocols. Robotic peacekeepers began to emerge from hidden alcoves, their soothing voices a stark contrast to their imposing forms. "Please remain calm and proceed to the nearest designated safety area. This is not a drill." The appearance of the security robots only added to the confusion. Some alien species, unfamiliar with the Academy's protocols, assumed the machines were some kind of human defense system activating to protect the sleeping Deathworlders. In the midst of the growing bedlam, Professor Zilksnath fought her way through the crowd to reach the human pavilion. "Ambassador Williams," she called out, her usual melodious voice strained with stress. "We need to get your people out of here. The situation is escalating beyond our control." Williams nodded grimly. "Agreed, but we can't just leave them vulnerable like this. We need a safe way to transport them while they're still asleep." As they frantically brainstormed solutions, the panic continued to spread. The festival grounds had devolved into chaos, with different species reacting in wildly different ways to the perceived threat. The crystalline harmonics had begun to vibrate at their resonant frequency, creating a discordant symphony that shattered nearby glass structures. A group of photosynthetic floaters had inflated themselves to twice their normal size, blocking out the sunlight and casting ominous shadows over the area. The hive-minded colonials had merged into a massive, undulating superorganism that was slowly engulfing smaller pavilions in its path. Amidst the mayhem, a small group of alien students who had attended Professor Zilksnath's xenobiology lectures banded together. Led by Zix, they formed a protective cordon around the Earth Pavilion. "We need to protect the sleeping humans," Zix chittered to his companions. "They're not a threat. They're at their most vulnerable right now." The students linked appendages, tentacles, and force field generators to create a barrier between the slumbering humans and the panicked crowd. It was a powerful visual, representatives from a dozen different species coming together to protect the very creatures that so many others feared. Inside the protective circle, Ambassador Williams and Professor Zilksnath worked feverishly to devise an evacuation plan. They commandeered some anti-gravity sleds from a nearby technology exhibit, quickly modifying them to serve as floating beds. "We'll use these to transport the sleepers," Williams explained. "But we need a safe route out of here." Professor Zilksnath's scales rippled with inspiration. "The old maintenance tunnels. They run beneath the entire campus. We can use them to reach the secure xenobiology labs." As they began carefully transferring the still sleeping humans onto the anti-gravity sleds, the situation outside their protective bubble continued to deteriorate. The Academy's administrative AI, detecting the escalating crisis, initiated a campus-wide lockdown. Massive energy shields began to descend around each sector of the grounds, further isolating different groups of panicked festival-goers. "We need to move now," Williams said urgently, "before we're sealed in here with no way out." With the help of Zix and the other xenobiology students, They began to guide the floating sleds towards a concealed maintenance hatch. The alien students formed a protective phalanx around the unconscious humans, using their diverse abilities to clear a path through the chaos. As they disappeared into the tunnels beneath the academy, leaving the pandemonium of the festival behind, Ambassador Williams turned to Professor Zilksnath with a weary smile. "Well, Professor," he said, his voice tinged with both exhaustion and wry amusement, "I think it's safe to say this cultural exchange didn't go quite as planned." Zilksnath's scales shimmered with what might have been the alien equivalent of a chuckle. "Indeed, Ambassador. But perhaps this incident will provide an even more valuable lesson than we had intended. After all, true understanding often comes from facing our fears and misconceptions head-on." As they guided their unusual procession through the dimly lit tunnels, both human and alien alike couldn't help but reflect on the absurdity of the situation. A simple demonstration of sleep, something utterly mundane to humans, had managed to throw the entire Galactic Academy into chaos. It was a stark reminder of how much the various species of the galaxy still had to learn about each other. And as they emerged into the safety of the xenobiology labs, they knew that the real work of fostering interspecies understanding was only just beginning. Awakening to chaos. The secure xenobiology labs of the Galactic Academy were designed to contain the most dangerous and unpredictable life forms in the known universe. Today, however, they served as a sanctuary for a group of sleeping humans and their alien protectors. Ambassador Jerome Williams paced nervously, his eyes darting between the row of anti-gravity sleds where his team still slumbered, and the bank of monitors showing the chaos unfolding across the academy grounds. "This is a disaster," he muttered, running a hand through his graying hair. "Years of diplomatic progress, undone by a simple nap." Professor Zilksnath placed a comforting appendage on the ambassador's shoulder, her scales shimmering with empathy. "Do not be too hard on yourself, Ambassador. None of us could have predicted this reaction. If anything, this incident highlights how crucial our work in xenobiology and cultural exchange truly is." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft groan from one of the sleeping humans. Sarah Chen, the lieutenant who had volunteered for the original sleep study, was beginning to stir. "They're waking up," Zix-Zax chittered excitedly, his multiple eyes swiveling to focus on the rousing humans. As the human delegation began to regain consciousness, their expressions quickly shifted from confusion to alarm as they took in their unfamiliar surroundings and the tension evident on their colleagues' faces. "Ambassador," Sarah asked groggily, sitting up on her anti-gravity sled, "what's going on? Where are we?" Williams took a deep breath, steeling himself for the difficult explanation ahead. "Well, Lieutenant, it seems our attempt to demonstrate human sleep cycles didn't go quite as planned." Over the next few minutes, he and Professor Zilksnath briefed the newly awakened humans on the pandemonium their slumber had inadvertently caused. The humans' reactions ranged from disbelief to mortification. "You're telling me," one of the cultural attaches said, his voice rising in pitch, "that we caused a planet-wide panic by taking a nap?" "Not planet-wide," Zilksnath corrected gently. "The disturbance is currently contained within the Academy grounds. But yes, the sight of multiple humans entering an unconscious state simultaneously was unsettling for many species." The humans exchanged bewildered glances, struggling to comprehend how something so mundane to them could have caused such chaos. "So what do we do now?" Sarah asked, her military training kicking in as she focused on the problem at hand. Ambassador Williams squared his shoulders, his diplomatic instincts taking over. "Now we need to find a way to calm the situation and turn this into a learning opportunity. But first, we need more information." He turned to the alien students who had helped with the evacuation. "What's the current status out there?" Zix-Zax scuttled over to a nearby console, his spindly legs moving with surprising grace. A holographic display sprang to life, showing a map of the Academy grounds overlaid with swirling patterns of color representing different species' movements and stress levels. "The situation remains chaotic," the arachnoid student reported. Many species have entered defensive postures or flee responses. The Academy's security systems are struggling to maintain order. Williams nodded grimly. We need to make an announcement. Let everyone know that there's no real danger. But given the level of panic, a simple broadcast might not be enough. Sarah stepped forward. An idea forming. What if we show them? Not just tell them, but demonstrate that we're awake, alive, and not a threat. Professor Zilksnath's scales rippled with excitement. Yes, a live demonstration. We could use the Academy's holographic projection systems to broadcast your image across the entire campus. The team quickly got to work, with the alien students assisting in accessing the Academy's communication networks while the humans prepared their message. They decided on a simple but powerful image. The entire human delegation, awake and alert, with Ambassador Williams at the forefront to deliver a calm explanation of what had transpired. As they made their final preparations, a proximity alert chimed. Someone was approaching the xenobiology labs. The doors slid open to reveal a familiar face. Dr. Aisha Patel, the sleep expert who had participated in the earlier xenobiology lecture via hologram. She looked disheveled, as if she had rushed there in a hurry. I came as soon as I heard, she said, slightly out of breath. I was already en route to the Academy for a follow-up presentation when news of the incident reached my ship. I thought you could use an expert on hand. Williams smiled gratefully. Dr. Patel, your timing couldn't be better. We're about to address the entire Academy, and having a sleep specialist to help explain things could make all the difference. With Dr. Patel integrated into their plan, the team made their final preparations. The humans straightened their uniforms and composed themselves, ready to face the camera. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. Zax announced, his chelicera clicking nervously. Suddenly, the humans found themselves projected as towering holograms across every sector of the Academy grounds. The sight of the recently unconscious Deathworlders now standing tall and alert caused a fresh wave of startled reactions among the alien species. Ambassador Williams stepped forward, his voice calm and reassuring as it boomed across the campus. People of the Galactic Academy, honored guests, and esteemed colleagues, I am Ambassador Jerome Williams of Earth. I understand that our demonstration of human sleep patterns has caused considerable alarm, and for that, we sincerely apologize. What you witnessed was not an attack, not a malfunction, and certainly not a threat to anyone's safety. It was simply a natural biological process that all humans require to maintain their health and cognitive functions. He gestured to Dr. Patel, who stepped forward to provide a more detailed explanation of human sleep cycles, emphasizing their evolutionary purpose and non-threatening nature. As they spoke, the swirling colors on the Academy map began to slowly stabilize. The panic was far from over, but the sight of the awake and coherent humans was having a calming effect on many species. Encouraged by this progress, Sarah Chen stepped forward to add her perspective. As someone who recently demonstrated sleep for many of you, I want to assure you that it's not only safe but rejuvenating. We humans emerge from sleep refreshed and ready to tackle new challenges. In fact, it's often during our sleep that we process information and come up with creative solutions to problems. This seemed to intrigue many of the alien observers. The idea that unconsciousness could lead to greater problem-solving abilities was a novel concept for species that remained perpetually aware. As the humans continued their explanation, assisted by Professor Zilksnath and the xenobiology students, a gradual shift began to occur across the Academy. Fear and panic slowly gave way to curiosity and cautious interest. Some of the braver alien species began to approach the human holograms, asking questions and sharing their own perspectives on rest and recovery. The cultural exchange, which had seemed like a disaster just hours ago, was transforming into one of the most engaging and educational events in the Academy's history. Ambassador Williams couldn't help but smile as he watched the interactions unfold. What had started as a potential diplomatic nightmare was turning into a powerful opportunity for mutual understanding. As the broadcast concluded and the holograms faded, Williams turned to his team, alien and human alike. "Well done, everyone. I think we've managed to turn this situation around. But our work is far from over." Professor Zilksnath nodded in agreement, her scales shimmering with renewed purpose. "Indeed, Ambassador. This incident has highlighted how much we still have to learn about each other. But it has also shown the incredible potential for growth and understanding when we face our fears and misconceptions together." The combined human and alien team looked out at the gradually calming Academy grounds, each lost in thought about the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. They had weathered a storm of misunderstanding, and in doing so, had forged new bonds of trust and cooperation. As they prepared to leave the safety of the xenobiology labs and rejoin the cultural exchange in person, all of them, human and alien alike, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road to true interspecies understanding would be long and filled with unexpected challenges, but together they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store. A new understanding. In the days following the Great Sleep Panic, as it came to be known, the Galactic Academy buzzed with activity of a different kind. Instead of fear and chaos, there was an atmosphere of intense curiosity and eagerness to learn. The human delegation, far from being ostracized, found themselves at the center of attention. Aliens of all species flocked to the Earth Pavilion, not to gawk at sleeping humans, but to engage in deep discussions about the nature of consciousness, rest, and the myriad ways different species rejuvenated themselves. Ambassador Williams, Professor Zilksnath, and Dr. Patel had set up an impromptu lecture series, addressing the flood of questions from students and visiting dignitaries alike. The xenobiology department had never seen such attendance, with beings packed into lecture halls and overflow rooms, their various sensory appendages straining to catch every word. "The key thing to understand," Dr. Patel explained to a rapt audience, "is that human sleep isn't just an absence of consciousness. It's an active process crucial for our physical and mental well-being." She brought up a holographic display of a human brain, highlighting different regions as she spoke. "During sleep, our brains consolidate memories, process emotions, and even clear out cellular waste. It's like a biological reset button that we press every day. A quantum oscillator, its form a shimmering cloud of probability, pulsed with a question. But how do you defend yourselves during this vulnerable state? Surely predators would take advantage of your unconsciousness." Ambassador Williams stepped in to answer. "An excellent question. Throughout our evolution, we developed social structures and safe sleeping environments to mitigate that risk. Humans rarely sleep alone in dangerous situations. We take turns keeping watch, build shelters, and have evolved to wake quickly at signs of danger." This explanation led to a fascinating discussion on the evolution of social behaviors and the development of technology as a means of species survival. Many alien species began to draw parallels to their own evolutionary paths, recognizing how different environmental pressures had shaped diverse solutions to universal challenges. Meanwhile, in another part of the Academy, Sarah Chen had organized a practical demonstration of various human sleep positions and environments. She had set up a typical Earth bedroom, complete with a soft mattress, pillows, and warm blankets, items that seemed bizarre and unnecessarily complicated to many alien observers. "This might seem like a lot of specialized equipment," Sarah explained, patting the bed, "but humans are quite particular about their sleep environments. The right combination of comfort and support can significantly improve our sleep quality." She demonstrated different sleeping positions, on the back, side, and stomach, explaining the benefits and drawbacks of each. The aliens watched in fascination, some attempting to mimic the positions with their non-human anatomies, leading to moments of unexpected hilarity that helped further break down barriers. Zigzax and his fellow xenobiology students had taken it upon themselves to create comparative infographics, showing how different species across the galaxy handled their need for rest and rejuvenation. These displays became a popular attraction, with aliens eagerly searching for their own species and comparing notes with others. "It's fascinating," Zix chittered excitedly to a group of onlookers. While humans require lengthy periods of unconsciousness, the photosynthetic floaters enter a low-energy state during dark cycles, slowly rotating to maximize light exposure. And the crystalline harmonics vibrate at specific frequencies to realign their atomic structures. This comparative approach helped put human sleep into perspective for many alien species. What had initially seemed like a terrifying vulnerability was now being recognized as simply one of many diverse biological adaptations. As the days passed, the impact of the Great Sleep Panic began to extend far beyond the Academy's walls. News of the incident and the subsequent learning opportunities had spread across the galaxy, sparking debates and discussions on hundreds of worlds. In the Academy's central plaza, a group of enterprising void weavers had set up an art installation inspired by human sleep. Strands of shimmering energy pulsed in complex patterns, creating a mesmerizing display that attempted to visualize the human sleep cycle and dream states. Aliens of all species gathered around it, engaging in philosophical discussions about consciousness and the nature of reality. Even the Academy's administration had embraced the learning opportunity. They announced plans for a new wing dedicated to the study of species-specific rest and rejuvenation processes, with the human sleep lab as its centerpiece. Ambassador Williams found himself in a meeting with the Academy's Board of Overseers, discussing the broader implications of the incident. What started as a potential diplomatic disaster has turned into one of the most significant cultural exchanges in recent memory. The Chief Overseer, a being of pure energy contained within a hovering orb, observed, "We've received inquiries from dozens of worlds, all eager to learn more about human sleep patterns and to share their own species' methods of rest and recovery." Williams nodded, a mixture of pride and humility in his voice. "We're honored to have played a part in fostering this dialogue. It's a powerful reminder that our differences, when approached with openness and curiosity, can be our greatest strength." Professor Zilksnath, her scales shimmering with excitement, added, "This incident has opened up entirely new avenues of research. We're already seeing proposals for studies on how different rest patterns might influence species' problem-solving abilities, emotional processing, and even technological development." As the meeting concluded, plans were put in motion for a galaxy-wide symposium on rest, rejuvenation, and the nature of consciousness. The Galactic Academy would host representatives from hundreds of worlds, all coming together to share knowledge and build greater understanding. Back at the Earth Pavilion, Sarah Chen was wrapping up another demonstration, this time focusing on human dreams. The concept of the unconscious mind creating vivid, often surreal narratives had captured the imagination of many alien species. Dreams can be bizarre, beautiful, or even frightening, Sarah explained to her rapt audience. But they're a normal and important part of our sleep cycle. Some scientists believe they help us process emotions and consolidate memories. A synaptic swarm, a collective intelligence composed of millions of tiny flying creatures, formed a vaguely humanoid shape as it posed a question. Can these dreams predict the future or connect with alternate realities? Sarah chuckled. There are certainly humans who believe that, but there's no scientific evidence to support it. Dreams are more likely a reflection of our subconscious thoughts and experiences. This led to a lively debate about the nature of reality and consciousness, with different species offering their own perspectives based on their unique sensory experiences and cultural beliefs. As the sun set on another day of learning and exchange, Ambassador Williams stood at the edge of the Academy grounds, looking out over the glittering cityscape beyond. Professor Zilksnath joined him, her iridescent scales reflecting the last rays of sunlight. "You know, Professor," Williams said thoughtfully, "when I first arrived here, I was focused on showcasing humanity's strengths, our technology, our adaptability, our resilience. I never imagined that one of our most vulnerable states would end up being our greatest teacher." Zilksnath's scales rippled in agreement. It's often our vulnerabilities that connect us most deeply to others. Ambassador, by sharing yours, you've opened the door to a level of interspecies understanding we've never achieved before. William smiled, watching as aliens of all shapes and sizes continued to mingle and chat excitedly around the various exhibits. I suppose there's a lesson in that. In sleep, we humans are at our most vulnerable, but also our most honest. Perhaps that's true of cultural exchange as well. Real understanding only comes when we're willing to let our guards down and truly see each other. As night fell over the Galactic Academy, the once feared human sleep demonstration had transformed into a symbol of unity and shared curiosity. In lecture halls, art installations, and casual conversations, beings from across the cosmos were finding common ground in the universal need for rest and renewal. The Great Sleep Panic had evolved into something far greater, a awakening to the beautiful complexity of life in all its forms. And as the Academy prepared for a new era of interspecies cooperation and understanding, one thing was clear: the journey of discovery was only just beginning. In the years to come, the events of those few chaotic days would be remembered not as a disaster, but as a turning point, the moment when the diverse species of the galaxy truly began to understand and appreciate their wonderful, bewildering differences. And it had all started with something as simple as a human taking a nap.